welcome everybody to the One to Go show. It is Puka once again, joined by the Bert Lehman and the Ryan Aho. All right, the UMP Summer Nationals have been going on for about 2 weeks. They started on July 8th, and we have not started off the show with them, so we're going to give them the mantle, so to speak, tonight and kick off with them. So as we always or normally do, Bert, we kick off with you. So what have you seen so far? What are some of your observations for the UMP Summer Nationals thus far?
I didn't watch a lot of the races, of the Summer National races, but I did look at the point standings today, and I was surprised to see Brian Shirley on top of the standings. I know he has one win in the series, but I didn't think he was running all that well, so I was surprised to see him at the top of the standings. Tough break for a Wisconsin driver who had a good run in one of the races. I can't remember what track it was at, but Taylor Scheffler, who's from down by Milwaukee in Wisconsin, finished fourth in that race and got disqualified, though, because he was light at the scales. And the article that I read on Dirt, they interviewed him, and he said that he thought he got a fuel runoff based on the type of seat that he has in his car, but that's only a World of Outlaw rule. That is not a dirt car rule. So, I mean, he said, you know, we should have just put a gallon or two more gas and they would have been, or fuel in the car, and then he would have been fine. But it's a tough way to find out what the rules are in that series. So it just, for all the drivers out there, make sure you know the rules ahead of time. I know you're racing, you know, you can race in multiple series, but you got to make sure that you're following the rules for the series you're actually racing in.
Ouch, that's tough. Ryan, your thoughts so far on the 2020 version?
Well, I didn't know that. That's interesting. You know, I didn't realize that there was a difference in rules there. And that just leads me, I'll just lead in with this. A late model should be a late model should be a late model. It is sickening to me that the World of Outlaws and Lucas Oil and UMP and Wasota and IMCA and all this, they're all different. Dirt Kings and Tri-State Series. Ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. A late model should be a late model should be a late model. Get together. Let's make them the same so we can have good quality racing all over the country and none of this drama. Tough break for him. I mean, you're right. He's a driver. He's responsible to know that, but it's silly. It's silly. You shouldn't have to know that. Now, what I got out of the Hell Tour, and you talked about Shirley leading the points, and, you know, I think it's just who screws up less, right? It's between him and, you know, you got Bobby Pearson there. I pick on Bobby Pierce a lot, but I got to keep in mind he's only 23 years old. I mean, the kid's flat out talented. He's fun to watch. He's young. He's still a pup. He's like half my age, which is crazy. I think that just told you guys how old I am. That's not good, right? So literally, he's half my age. Oh, my God, that's not good. Okay, but the fact is, you watch them guys, and they're up on the wheel. They're pounding the cushion, slicing, dicing. None of them are smooth. Whether it's Shirley, Heckenast, right? All them guys are kind of a little bit fly swatters. Now, I was thinking about this. I'm like, man, why are them guys, they're just really not that good on the dry. Why is that? You know, why are them guys so good on the cushion? And if you watch them Hell Tour races, it's incredible. The track prep, to me, as a fan, has been amazing, right? It's been amazing. They got this thing that's H2O. I'd have to look up what that is, but they use it to actually prep the track. And they put enough of it on there to where it's actually sticky. It's like 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, something. I'm not sure exactly. I think it's water. That's what it is. Water. Yes, they use water. Okay. Yeah, that's water. Yeah, fair enough. And they use a lot of it, right? So you look at the track at the end of the night, there's moisture on the bottom. There's a cushion on the top. Now, drivers in our area, they become soft. They're like, oh, we want it smooth, dry. We don't want to be up on the wheel because it's harder on equipment. It is. It's harder on tin. It's harder on stuff. But it's entertaining. And that's what I noticed. The Hell Tour, they haven't had huge numbers. You know, 20 cars. Last night was 14 cars because there was some weather. You know, I think they were maybe in the low 30s at a race or two. But they've had really good racing. In fact, the high side, we'll call him the low side hustler, Fager, I think he said it was at Highland Speedway. He came from like 14th, somewhere in that neighborhood to win. Unbelievable. I mean, there's been racing. I mean, think back to last week, we talked about Fairbury, right, how awesome that racing was. It has been absolutely entertaining. The track prep has been unbelievable, and it's so much different than the track prep that I'm used to. Because in our area, they keep things hard, they keep it dry, they try to keep it smooth. And, you know, I'm not saying all the racing's bad. Don't get me wrong. We have some good racing too, but it's just not the same. Totally different concept of track prep. And I think they've done a really good job with that. So I'm looking forward to watching some of them races this week. Puka, did you get a chance to watch some of them yourself?
Yeah, they were good. And the thing is with the Hell Tour is like Brownstown and Fairbury, they're like the big tracks, the true like 3/8 mile, like that Highland where Fager was. They were doing some of those shots from a drone. Did you see how tight some of that corner? I mean, it was tight racing. But like you said, because they do such a good job with the track prep, you can race. It doesn't matter what the size of the track is. And like you said, car counts, who cares? The racing is exciting. I mean, Unzerker can show up, or Fager can show up, or, you know, of course, Pierce is all over the place, and Herb has been there, and Bronson's been there, Shirley. You know, the racing is great, and you can see the crowds are good. And that's why the Summer Nationals have been around for like, it was the late 80s. So 35, going on 40 years, because the racing is so dang good. And they're daisy chaining, found a little trap line in Illinois, basically. You know, they're not coming into Wisconsin anymore. They used to come into Minnesota. They're basically just sticking around Illinois. They're going to hit a little bit of Missouri, and they're going to hit a little bit of Indiana. So, it's been very impressive. Like I said, the tracks are great. Now, I know you kind of wanted to comment a little bit about, being that we're talking about traction a little bit, finding the traction and sniffing out the traction.
Well, I remember I said it's whoever screws up least, right? So the other night, Brian Shirley, I literally shook my head. He's got the race won. Who the heck won that one? You have to look that up. K-Rob in the MB. Yeah. K-Rob won it. So I don't remember what track it was at. There's been so many, it's hard to keep track.
Spoon River, I think. Is it that Spoon River? I mean, some of the names of these tracks, too.
Right, yeah, they got cool names. So he's right on the top. There's a big cushion up there. And guys, Brian Shirley's good on a cushion. He really is. So there's traction. He throws it in there. He's fast on a cushion. And he was railing it. But then a couple times he didn't get in quite right. He picked up a push. I think he came in too soft. Didn't quite get the car turned. And K-Rob looked underneath him right on the bottom. Now he was parking it. There's a tack strip as wide as a car right on the bottom. The whole middle of the track's all black and marbly, kind of crappy through the middle. But it was one good lane on the bottom, and the cushion was good. And K-Rob got inside of him a couple times and Shirley just drive away down the straightaways. 2 laps to go, he screwed up, and what does Shirley do? He drives right to the middle. I'm like, what an idiot. Like, what are you doing? I mean, if you're going to block, go to the bottom, or go to the what are you doing? He went right to the middle. It feels like a lane off the bottom in the middle of the dry. K-Rob gets inside of him, a little contact, but Shirley opened the door. He literally gave that race away. And I'm thinking about that. I've been watching a lot of racing, and I've been around racing forever. I've raced forever. And if you really watch, if you observe, if you're a fan, or especially if you're a driver, watch some racing, and you'll see that in literally 80% of the races, half the cars are simply not in the right groove on the racetrack. And most racing, I mean, especially in our area, most racing, you have one like distinct good lane, and then you might have another lane that's pretty good, and then you have a whole bunch of the track that's just not the place to be. And it's crazy how people will just go to the place where you shouldn't be. It just makes no sense to me. And I've always scratched my head, and I think back to some of the races I won, and people are like, oh man, the track was racy. I'm like, no, it was one lane on the bottom, but some of the guys I raced against were simply too stupid to run there. So they slid up the bottom. I just drove by them easily. So I just don't understand why racers can't figure out, like, hey, dummy, like, let's watch a race before ours, right? Let's look at the track. As fans, how many times have you guys sat in the stand and be like, why is he running the bottom? The top's so much better. What is he doing, right? We do that all the time. I've never, ever lost a race ever from the grandstands. I've won every single one. I made the right decision 100% of the time, always, right? And I didn't always make the right decision on the racetrack. But, as a fan looking at that, somebody that's raced cars, I've talked to a lot of drivers, guys, over the last, say, month. And I asked them, I said, when you're getting ready to race, are you watching the track a couple races before? And it's crazy how many people are simply not doing that. They don't even watch the races before them. They're like, well, it was tacky 4 races ago. I'm just going to get in and go. Like, what are you doing? I remember Scott Bloomquist And he used to be a guy, I mean, you guys probably seen him do this for years. He would be in the infield by himself, right? The race would be out there. He'd drive to one end on the four-wheeler, and he'd just be watching the track. He'd go to the other end of the track. He'd be watching the track. If he was on the outside, you could see he'd kind of move around. Why? Because he wanted to see if there was a distinct line. He wanted to see how cars were arcing the corner. He wanted to see where the traction was coming off. He was a student of the game. Now, he's lost a step. He's not on his game this year. It's a mental thing probably. But the guy's one of the smartest racers to ever strap into a race car, and it's just called being prepared to race. And it's crazy how many people just simply, I don't know what's going through their head. It's like they're texting some chick up in the grandstands like who they're going to hook up with after the races instead of worrying about going fast on the racetrack, right? You know, so it's just, I don't get it with some people, but Shirley gave that one away. He did capitalize. I think it was the next night he went out and won that one. So he didn't make the same mistake twice, but, you know, this is something that I really observed was, you know, it's crazy how drivers do that.
Bert, any final comments?
I just want to add a quick story about drivers watching the track for conditions. When I was on MJ McBride's pit crew, when we parked in the infield, you'd have to line up entering turn one so you could see the turns 1 and 2 from the race car as you're sitting in line. And every now and then you'd see his hand come out the window, and it's like, dump 2 more gallons of fuel in the car, or he'd want some turns in the shocks. So then everybody's picking up the back end of the car and somebody crawls underneath and adjusts the shocks. So yeah, I mean, drivers who are on top of their game, I mean, they're watching the track until the very last second.
Now you take somebody that's OCD like me. My pit guys used to just get pissed off at me because we'd have the car up on stands. We'd be all ready to go. They'd be setting it down. We'd be checking tires. And like literally, I could be in the next race. We didn't have the staging deal where you had to stage a bunch of time earlier. I was like one of the last guys to pull on the track because I was watching as long as I could. So I'd be watching the race and be like, oh, crap, it's really changing. It's really getting marbly. I'm like, we got to change the spring. We got to change the bar angle. Like literally everybody else is getting ready to pull on the track, and we're changing the car and doing all this. Oh, man. And you know what's sad is some of the times, like, we'd have the setup already done. Like, it was good where we had it. Then we changed it, kind of thinking, oh, it's going to do this. And then we changed it back to what it was right before the race. Boy, I pissed my pit crew off quite a bit doing that.
Well, speaking of, you know, track conditions and making changes, as you all you fans know, and as you two know, you know, I headed down to Superior on Tuesday for the World of Outlaws. And guys, I could not have been more disappointed with Tuesday night shows. And like I said, not mad. You know, glad they had it. Appreciate all the effort they put in. You know, they had those situations with the county, with the restrictions. But, gosh, guys, you talk about disappointing. I mean, this is Superior Speedway. And, Bert, I don't think you've been there, but Ryan, obviously, you raced there many times. There's an expectation that goes along with Superior, which is a pretty damn fast track, a tacky track and a fast track. And I've had to listen, growing up here on Minnesota's Iron Range for 30 years, about racers up here. And you were never scared of the Superior or God Nicholas Speedway, Ryan. But you know, as well as I know, how many guys would not race there? It's too tacky. It's too big. It's too fast. It's too hard on motors. I've heard it all for 30 years. And so there's this expectation. We pull in there on Tuesday, and guys, it's dry top to bottom. There's dust. And not that the racing was necessarily that bad per se. I mean, you could pass and stuff. But like I said, you go into certain tracks, like you come to the Labor Day shootout, and you expect it to be dry top to bottom. You're going to find out which guy, you know, is good on the dry. Heat, feature, everything in between. You know, you go to Gondiklan, you kind of want to hear an engine war. You want to see a guy step on the gas. Well, it was anything but that on Tuesday night. And on social media, Ryan, did they issue like an apology? Did I hear?
No, there was no apology. You know, there were some people definitely grumbling about it. And I think the feature was actually pretty good. You know, one thing that B-Chef said is, as dry as it was early, he fully anticipated it was going to take rubber and lock down one lane. It never did. I mean, they were moving around the track in the feature. Mater did really good, and Lanigan was running the top, so they were moving around in the feature. Never locked down rubber, which was interesting to me. That clay over there never really seems to do that. But, you know, here's the deal. Some positive came out of this, right? So the promoter, I talked to Joe Staria today, who's the promoter over there at the Gondikla Speedway. they're fully aware. They looked at it, and he's like, man, he goes, I get it. And I don't know if you saw Tomahawk. There was somebody over by Tomahawk come out with this new kind of disc type deal or whatever. Well, Joe Staria and the board over there at Gondikla Speedway, they actually took some time this week to talk to different track prep crews from around the country. Some of them down from Indiana, some of them from other parts of Wisconsin. They were trying to figure out, like, what can we do? Because this is ridiculous. We don't want this either. So they actually bought one of those machines, and it's coming, and it's actually going to be there for the Twin 25s. In the first night, they're going to use that kind of disc to tear the track up and get moisture in it. It's for the Twin 25s. Nice. So I'm excited for that. That could provide some good racing. They're going to test it out. They're doing their research, and they really understand, like, hey, that's not what we wanted either. And I'm super happy to see that they recognize that, and not only recognized it, but now they're going to do something about it to try to provide a better racing service for the drivers and the fans. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, because it was, like I said, I mean, Bloomquist, for those of you that don't know, got passed in the B feature by a crate late model, okay? Derek Vessel. And I talked to Derek after. He was smiling happy. He said, made my night, so good for him. And like I said, but Shepard said, again, for those of you fans that have been to Spear, Shepard said in his post-race interview, the slickest track we've raced on all year. Superior! The slickest track. Ryan, you've raced there how many times? How many times have you said after an interview, boy, yeah, I barely got this one. Slickest track of all, right here in Superior. I mean, it's just, it isn't Superior.
I did talk to Bravo. He went down there a few weeks ago, and he said the same thing. He goes, man, I've been on some slippery tracks. I've raced Hibbing my whole life. He goes, I've never been on anything that slippery. I mean, he goes, it was like glass. I mean, really hard to get a hold of traction. So, yeah, it was unique. But, you ever think maybe Derek Vessel is just better than Bloomquist?
Absolutely. I've thought it all along. And there were some guys that, kind of on social media that kind of dug up some stuff that the lap times at the 1989 World of Outlaws race were faster than the lap times in qualifying at the race on Tuesday night. So, but the fast time was set by Wazzota's own James Nitro Giassi up in Souptown. And Bert, you had a comment on Mr. Giassi?
Yeah, I actually interviewed him yesterday for an upcoming article in Dirt Monthly magazine, and I've never spoken to him before. He's a really good interview. But we talked a little bit about the World of Outlaw show in Superior. And yeah, he just had a, Wasoda engine in the car, and he set fast time. So yeah, I mean, that tells you, how slow the track was. And I did learn some other things from him. And because I asked him why he went to Cedar Lake rather than Mississippi Thunder Speedway for the 2 5,000 to win shows. And he told me that he broke a motor at the Masters. So he's got a different motor in the car. And they've had some gremlins since they put this one in, and if they had a problem with it that weekend, they could drive 10 minutes to their shop rather than 2.5 hours away at Mississippi Thunder. So that's a little bit more information about why he made that decision.
Hey, Bert, I had a question for you. At the Seymour show, when they did time trials, did they come across the flag stand and when they went into 1 and 2, did they have to immediately go into the infield?
No, they came out one, and then when they took the checkered flag, they'd go around and come into the pits in turn 4. If you went past turn 4, then you had to go to your slowest lap, and that's what Dustin Sorensen did. He went past turn 4 and did another lap. So they made him go use his slowest lap, but then he was light at the scales anyway, so it didn't matter.
Yeah, see, that was another gripe. Casey Schumann, I don't know if this is your deal or what, but obviously Wazzota guys don't time off, and the deal was you went into 1, you went into 2, and you had to come right down. If you pass the halfway point on the backstretch, DQ. So Steve Larson has a pretty good lap, coast on the backstretch, DQ. Buda Slavic has a pretty good lap, DQ. It's just like, I mean, they started plenty early. They had the time. I think they started time trials a little bit earlier. There was only, about 30 cars. We're not time trialing. This is in the World 100. We're not time trialing 100 cars. Just say, pull it. I mean, somewhere in the back, whatever. But, it just seemed like a little bit of a disadvantage to the Zota guys. Ryan, I mean, you've been in this situation. Go ahead and comment, Bert, too.
It was stupid. I mean, I get it, again, a rule's a rule, but I mean, we're getting ticky-tack here. I mean, come on. It's like, what are they trying to do? I mean, what are they trying to accomplish with some of the stuff they're doing? I mean, no sense whatsoever. Yeah, you're exactly right. That it was actually getting quite annoying. Oh, there's another one that passed. Oh, there's another one that it's like who gives a crap? It's like their time was their time. It's not like they're holding up the show. I mean, just kind of like the late to staging deal, and they got all this. I think they have way too many drama type rules that they don't better the program in any way. There's no advantage. It's like
screw the little guy.
Stuff.
Yeah, you're screwing the local guy. Kevin Carlson, another guy. I mean, Kevin Carlson, hardworking guy, shows up at the track, wants to have some fun. DQ'd. It's like, I mean, come on. Go ahead, Bert.
Go ahead, Bert.
I don't know if they said this at Superior when it happened, but I know at Seymour, every time that happened, the World of Outlaw announcer made a point to say they were told at the drivers' meeting that you cannot go past this point. They're exerting their authority. These are the rules, and if you disobey these rules, you will be punished.
Yeah, they said that over and over. Another way, and I don't know if you guys noticed this. See, the World of Outlaw guys, they run the show. When they come in, their race director, they run the program. It's their officials. It's their deal. They don't want the locals running well. They simply do not, especially on the northern swing when they're running against a bunch of limited late models. They do not want them winning. So if you think about it, do you remember that yellow came out? Eder was running second. Prochnow was running third. And Lillo pulls up off the track. He pulls in. Far off the track, they throw the yellow. Now, I talked to some racetrack officials from the Gondiklau Speedway, and they said, Ryan, I'm telling you, that was a competition yellow. There's no other way about it. That was a competition yellow. They wanted to bunch things up, and they absolutely did not, in any way, shape, or form, want to, late model guys. I mean, I hate to call them mediocre, but they're not like your top guys. It's not Pat Noor, AJ Demel. They're not them guys, right? Eder can run good. Prochnow can run good, but, I would say that they're above average, but they're not like your top guy, right? And they certainly don't want them running second and third. And they were looking really good in second and third. Like, had there not been a yellow there, they may have finished second and third. They played a little kissy face out there, too. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
I was going to say that. Yeah, that caution was good for a little drama.
It was. And I had to look back and kind of watch because on that restart, Prochnow kind of give Eder a little bump, and Eder fell back a couple spots, and that's when the World of Outlaw guys got back by him. But I had to look back earlier. Lap one, Eder got into Prochnow first. I missed that completely.
I didn't see that. Right.
Yeah, so he gave him the quarter panel. Then Prochnow gave him the quarter panel on a restart, and then a couple laps later, Eder got back by him and gave him the quarter panel again. So get this, Prochnow's sister comes down in the pits afterwards, and evidently she knows Kevin Eder, right? And she proceeded to tell him exactly what she thought of his driving style, and you don't be picking on my brother. And there was some words said, and Kevin got a little heated, and she, bam, cuffed him right across the face in the pits. It's like. So I texted Eder. I said, "Dude, you got beat up by a girl at Superior?" He goes, "Yeah, she got me pretty good." He said, "I'm like, nice." So there was a little post-race drama there. She kind of open-faced slapped him a good one across the choppers. She must not have liked his comment back to her, but they weren't playing nice. So I don't know if there's some history there or what, but it provided a little entertainment. But all in all, those two ran really good most of the race, and I was kind of hoping to see them guys finish second and third. And I guess we actually had the Wissota guys ran pretty well, kind of all weekend long. And we can kind of get into that here, I guess, next.
Yeah. Well, Bert, but first off, sticking with the World of Outlaws, you wanted to tell a little bit of Bloomquist story that you missed last week.
Oh, yeah, last week I forgot to mention this. I mean, on this podcast, we've mentioned plenty of times that Bloomquist isn't having the greatest of years this year. And, I mean, you guys have been to races that Bloomquist has been at, and you go into pits after the races, and there's a tarp on that car. And, I mean, it's easier to get into Fort Knox than it is to see Bloomquist's car. And after the races at Seymour, I went down the pits. not a single tarp over the car whatsoever. So apparently Scott's not afraid for other drivers to see what he's running.
I got a video underneath this car right here.
I was going to
Maybe
say,
we'll
did
put it on
you get in trouble? Did you get in trouble for that?
Well, finally a guy kind of walked back, but I just said, "You're struggling anyway," and he kind of, what's he going to say? I mean, they are. I mean, he got beat by a crate late model, you know? I mean, so, and, you know, there were people back there hanging around, but, you know, like Cedar Lake, I mean, sometimes there's a line 20 deep, but that definitely wasn't the case. There were probably maybe a dozen people, something like that.
How about the vendor? How about his vendor booth? Was he stacked pretty deep at his?
They were parked up front, but I didn't see anything packed. I didn't walk over there. I figure I'll do that at Cedar Lake, but you know, that's got to be how he's making it this year, right? He's going to a lot of different tracks. He hasn't been to in about 10 years because he's been with the Lucas for so long, and I bet you selling T-shirts is kind of his bread and butter right now. And I just think that he needs. There's something wrong with that car. I mean, would we agree? I mean, or maybe it is just that droop rule, but it's almost like I think the guy needs a brand new car. I think he needs some time to regroup, but he can't with that Dryden sponsorship. You know, I mean, they're all over the place. I mean, you watch Dirt Vision and everything's Dryden on there too. But I just kind of think he needs time to put together a new car, put that one widget in there somewhere that does something different, and he can kind of take off. But yeah, he was bad. He got lapped in the feature. Like I said, beat by a crate late model in the B and lapped in the A.
I think his problem's right here. I think it's mental. He's just not in the game. I talked to Joe Provo. Okay, I might get in trouble for this, but I talked to Joe Provo. When Bloomquist is at Cedar Lake, right? Joe Provo was down in Mississippi Thunder the one day or whatever when they were kind of in the area there, and Bloomquist was calling them and texting them and trying to figure out, hey, what do we got going on afterwards? Like, Lucas is more worried about going to the casino than he was about racing the feature. I mean, it was ridiculous.
And he makes some money somehow.
Yeah, his head is not in the game at all.
Well, let's get to the locals just a little bit. Like I said, and that was, you know, like I said, it was good to see, but it's not necessarily what you want to see. And what I mean by that, like I said, I'm happy for all you locals. You made some money, but when you go to these shows, it's different when you have 5 of the regulars racing for the top 5, and then one guy local shows up and he's really battling. That builds a lot of drama. That seems a lot more fun than if you have, you know, whatever, half of your top 10 is locals. Bert, what are your thoughts on something like that? Do you agree? I mean, as a fan?
I mean, as a fan, for an Outlaw or Lucas race, as a fan, you go there to see the stars of that series, but you also go there to see the locals battle those stars. And everybody loves an underdog. So, I mean, I think it's great for the sport to have some locals, you know, mixed in with the top 10, you know, top 5 competing with them. That's what adds drama.
Right? I'm torn on that. I would say most of the time I 100% agree with that statement. But when they come to Wissota land, it's almost embarrassing. Right, when they go over to eastern Wisconsin, some of them guys have open motors in. Like Anblank had an open motor in. Yeah. You know, so they're on even playing field. But I mean, if you go to a track and the track's so bad that a super stock is beating late models, that's just stupid, right?
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm torn on the Northern Series, and I was going to try to put on that deal in Grand Rapids, and I'm really looking at this going, man, I just don't know. You know, I wish that our guys were all on open late model rules. So that way, when they came to town, it was like everybody's kind of in a gunfight. You know, they're on the same page. But when you see a half a dozen outlaws that are running really good and a whole bunch of Wissota guys, I don't know. The entertainment value to me is just not as good as when you see like a race down south where the locals are on equal equipment, kind of like they were down at the Show Me when 4 out of the top 5 were local guys, but they're on equal stuff. They're still open late models. Mm-hmm. You know, what's your thoughts, Puka?
Yeah, I mean, the David versus Goliath, like I said, they're. I mean, I like that too. But like I said, if there's too many there, then you're sitting back like, well, I didn't really come here to watch, you know, some of the regulars not even make the feature, and then they're getting lapped. You know, when you go to a big event like that, there's something about the stars, right? They set that up so the stars always make the race. Because when the UMP Summer Nationals first started, remember the top 8 they timed. They automatically made top 8 timers went into a dash. You were in the feature. Then they took the rest. So the 9th timer started heat 1 4th. So that's how he had to work his way. And so the heat races were really good. So the stars were in, and then everyone else had a chance. You know, the World of Outlaws aren't set up that way. They're set up, I mean, fast time, heat 1 on the pole. He's going to win the heat, you know, 99% of the time. So, you know, even like a World of Outlaw sprint race, I mean, it's impossible for a local, you know. But, you know, but you're kind of there not necessarily to see great racing and passing. You're kind of there to see the stars. Hey, I got to watch Steve Kinser tonight. I got to watch, you know, whatever, 12-lap feature, 50 or 12-lap heat, 25-lap feature. You're kind of there to watch them, not so much to see fantastic racing. You know, if you go to Knoxville or the Kings Royal, that's where you see the fantastic racing. When you show up at Rapid City, South Dakota on a Tuesday night when the World of Outlaws show up, are you really going to get fantastic racing? Maybe you will, but maybe you won't, but you're still happy that you got to see it. So that's kind of where I stand on that. So, and like I said, I'm happy for the locals. I mean, you made a lot of money. You impressed some people. You probably felt great about yourself. I mean, let's move on right here. We were kind of long on this segment where the World of Outlaws went to Fargo. They went to Grand Forks. I mean, Morgan Ward making the feature in Fargo. According to the announcer, she's only the 3rd female to ever make a World of Outlaw late model race. I know Jill George would be one of the others. Bert, would you have any idea who the 3rd would be?
I don't know who the 3rd would be. Okay. Not off the top of my head.
Okay, did you watch Fargo, Bert?
No, I did not.
Okay. Ryan, what were your thoughts on Fargo?
You know, a guy that actually ran really well at Fargo, Dave Moss. You know, he first year in the late model, he got 8th there. But Morgan Ward, guys, she actually followed that up, right? She got 2nd last night at the Casino Speedway in the late model. You know, so she followed that up with a good run there as well. You know, she's actually pretty good driver. She won some races in a modified as well. So, you know, hats off to her. You know, the racing, and they had the sprint cars there. My buddy Keith is a sprint car fan. I got to be honest, they drove me absolutely insane at Grand Forks and at Fargo. It's like these clowns could not stop spinning out. It's like green flag, yellow, green flag, yellow. 20 minutes later, they push start them. It's like, kick these stupid things off the racetrack so you can get the late models on there. Yeah. And so that's one of the things that annoyed me with them 2 tracks. But I guess in Fargo, I mean, Lanigan, I mean, he's been quietly good all year long. It was actually good to see somebody different win, right? And actually, I was telling you before we got on the show, Saturday there was a Lucas race, a World of Outlaw race, a Hell Tour race, a Southern All-Stars race. My buddy Jeff gave me the stat earlier. All 4 of those races, 4 big late model races, none of them were won by a Rocket on Saturday. That's got to be like the first time in a long time that's happened. So kind of an interesting stat there as well.
Yeah, and like I said, I agree on the sprints. You know, at a time of curfews, I mean, it's not 1985 anymore. You got to put starters in, and you know, at least the starters that would help. I mean, rolling. I mean, you got the wing. That's what I mean. But I mean, come on. I mean, it's 2020. You know, I mean, there's limitations everywhere. I mean, you know, you just got to figure out how to stick a starter in there somewhere. I mean, that's just what it is. Because yeah, like I said, they're rolling over, and like I said, I like sprint cars, but. Yeah, I mean, look at the situation last night. Let's move to Grand Forks now. You know, I mean, how long did that sprint car race take? 45 minutes for a, 20-lap feature for NOSA sprints?
It was a long time. I mean, it was ridiculously long. I'm like, what are they doing? I mean, it was terrible. So we'll get off the sprint cars because we could rant on that all day long. Usually they're good there, right? But a guy that we actually slid up into the top 5 on the power rankings, Dustin Strand, that was out of the whole series that came through the most impressive run by a local, 14th to 5th. And guys, I'm gonna tell you, like, he looked good. If he would have started closer to the front, he had a top 3 race car with a Wasota motor in there. He is one of the most talented drivers in our area, and he kind of hangs out mostly out west, so we don't really get to see him very often. But that kid is a hell of a race car driver and did really, really good over there at the River City Speedway.
Yeah, Bert, 10th win for Bishop. Can anyone touch him? Is this thing over?
Yeah, it's over. I mean, before the season started, when we picked had our championship picks, I said, until somebody proves they can beat him, you can't pick against Bishop. So
how big is his point lead?
I can find that really quick.
Yeah, somebody take a peek at that, because you were right.
I know where you're going.
Yeah, I'm going there, but I want to see how big that point lead is.
192 now, so I think it was 140 last week when we talked. Here's the money gap, hey.
It's 192?
Yeah, 192 on points, but listen to the earnings gap. 166 grand for Shepard. Second is still Ricky at 80 grand. He's doubled his money.
Now here's where I'm going with the points deal, right? 192 seems like a ton, and it is. It's a lot. But in the World of Outlaw sprint cars, again, if you think about this, how fast can that go away? Okay, Brad Sweet had a 114-point lead, 3 bad nights in a row, 2-point lead. So
Johnny Shots is right there.
Yep, and so I mean, and I think Macedo's right there as well, right? I think there's a few people that are kind of right there, but 3 bad nights. So is it unrealistic to think that Brandon Shepard could have some bad luck? Could he get a flat tire? Could he break an engine? Could something happen? So 192 is a pretty good wiggle room. I mean, that's a ton of points, but things can happen just like that too. And so it'll be interesting to watch. I got to be honest. I mean, I don't wish ill will on anybody, but I really want to see him break about 3 nights in a row.
Oh, gosh.
Close that gap.
I was cheering for Ricky last night. I said, Ricky's hometown track. You know, half of Canada was watching because they couldn't be there. And he just, kind of like in Fargo, he seems to develop a push a little bit later in the race.
He got 2/3, right? So that's kind of
yeah, he got 2/3 in a row. Yeah,
he had some pretty good nights, but he didn't get off the bottom. You know, he was pretty conservative. You know, and when he got into lap traffic, he kind of followed. He didn't go up and start kind of moving around on the racetrack. You know, I think when you're not winning and you're a little bit off, the mental game kicks in, and he wasn't driving with a ton of confidence in traffic, and that just comes from winning. You know, you look at B-Shep. I mean, he puts that car anywhere he wants to go. Or when you're winning races, your confidence is through the roof. You drive harder. It just is what it is.
Yeah. All right, fellas, let's move on to the Lucas Oil Speedway in Wheatland, Indiana, where they hosted the Show Me 100 and the Diamond Nationals. Big night for 26-year-old Peyton Looney. Shocks the world and wins the Show Me on Saturday night. Bert, you want to kick us off on the weekend? Kind of what you saw?
Sure. I didn't watch it last night, but you guys were texting. We were having our texting back and forth, and you told me who won. So I was thinking, okay, the track must have rubbered up or something. You know, guy probably started on the front row, track rubbered up, not much passing. So during my lunch hour or my lunch today, I watched the highlights of the race, and that wasn't the case at all. I mean, that there was multiple grooves. He actually lost the lead for a while and had to battle back and retake the lead. And overall, I mean, it was a very fun race to watch. And in this case, I'm assuming this is his first crown jewel that he's won. And I always love watching drivers win their first feature, or in this case, you know, his first crown jewel. I mean, you could tell he was excited before he even crossed the finish line. He had his fist pumping out the window, and it's that type of thing that makes racing exciting for me.
Ryan, I want you to recap the race a little bit as far as what you thought, but, you know, we also, like I said, we kind of touched on this a little bit with Superior, but, you know, is it good on a national level to have these national guys not showing up in the top 5? I mean, maybe a race or two, but if it happens, say, for a month, is that good for the sport?
Absolutely. I think, especially if they're on equal cars, right? Mm-hmm. You know, when we went down to this was open late models versus open late models is what it was. So, I mean, the first night Peyton Looney won, and then, of course, the Diamond Nationals, Chris Ferguson won, Team Zero actually winning a big one, right? So that was interesting. And there was somebody that was a Lucas Oil regular in the top 5 that first night. Buckingham has followed the whole series. I think he got 4th or 5th. You know, but the fact of the matter is, it's not like they're going and racing against a bunch of B-teamers. You know, think about down in Georgia. How much fun was it watching Mark Whitener? I mean, he was fast and had a shot to be up front. You know, so watching some of them guys, but they're on equal equipment. So it's like open late model versus open late model. Now, that means that you got a good racetrack, and, hey, you're going to have a good show, and that's good to watch. But when you're watching somebody and you know that, like, oh, wait a second here. This guy's got 200 horse less than this guy. They're like on a limited late model type rule, steel engines. And then you got us over here. We're open late models, and then these guys are passing us because the track's so dry you can't even hit the gas. To me, that sucks. That's just poor track prep is what that is. Because let's face it, if Superior would have been heavy, sticky, fast, you wouldn't have seen any Wasota motors in the top 10. Sorry, it just wouldn't have happened. But that down there, I mean, them are open late models, and you see a lot of them guys jumping in and out of the series all over the place when they come through even Tennessee, right? I mean, who was the guy just a week ago or a couple weeks ago that won down at Bulls Gap? That was kind of the same deal. Yeah, Mitchell. Exactly. Yeah, so you see that these guys are kind of jumping in, and I like that because now you're going to have a quality field of race cars that can actually compete against each other. And who knows, maybe some of these guys will follow the series. Maybe some of these guys will gain some confidence running these, and they'll be like, you know what, we have the equipment, and we just beat these guys. We're going to go to the Crown Jewel. We're going to go to the USA Nationals. We're going to go, to some of those big events because we've already beat them once. We have the equipment. We can do it again. But if them guys never run up front against them guys, why would they even go to the USA Nationals or anything like that if they don't feel like they can beat them? So I think it's really good for the big Crown Jewel races.
Bert, that segues us well into the Southern Nationals. You had some comments.
I actually watched during the week. I watched 2 of the Southern National races. One was at I-75 Speedway, and I had a case of deja vu watching that race. I'm watching it on through the computer, but on my TV, and all of a sudden my TV screen went black. And I think the lights just went out. I thought I was at SK Speedway again, but that's exactly what happened. So I guess it's not just at SK where the lights go out. Eventually they did get the lights back on, but I mean, the racing wasn't very exciting in that race. And then I also watched the race at Needmore Speedway. That race also wasn't very exciting. I mean, it seemed like that it was only the track. Well, we talked about track conditions this entire show, basically. There was no high side. Everybody was fighting for the bottom. Brandon Overton made a great move to move from second or third into first on a restart, and that was it. It was interesting in the one race. Madden was involved. A car basically just slammed into him going in corners 3 and 4, and Madden spun around completely and stayed on the gas the entire time, never stopped. So he got his spot back because the wheels, according to the rules, the wheels of his car never stopped moving. So he was able to get a spot back. So I guess the moral of the story is don't take your foot off the gas, even if you're doing a complete 360.
That is terrible advice. I've raced against some guys that are going to listen to you, and I've seen them just wad up some stuff, right? What I got out of the Southern Nationals, we talked about Brandon Overton, and that's in his home state, right? It's down in Georgia. He's from there, so he's following that instead of being up here. 4 in a row for Big Sexy. So he's been absolutely bolted. Madden looks like a race car driver again, so that's good, right? He's got a couple wins down there, So they haven't had huge car counts, but they've had some pretty good racing. Bert's kind of right; it's kind of been on the bottom. Hopefully, the next couple shows here this week are a little bit better.
To be fair, I did watch the race at Spreven, and that one was fun to watch. There were multiple grooves on that track, and there was passing. Mark Whitner was doing a lot of passing. He finished second, I believe. And actually, Madden went from 12th to 3rd, I believe, something like that. So I will give them credit for that, but I don't know. I don't know if the tracks are always prepared like that down south, or if it was just because they had extra races on the track. I'm not sure.
Need more Speedway needs more water. Maybe we should rename it. Need more water. Need more 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, Ryan. Need more. But congrats. I was going to say real quick, congrats to Overton. He's got to have a dozen wins now. Go ahead, Bert.
Yeah, I just wanted to say this is through 6 races, so I don't think it includes the last one that Overton won. But through 6 races, Overton had an 8-point lead over Madden, but Madden has led 124 laps versus 38 laps for Overton. So that's that. But like I said, that didn't include the last race where Overton led most of the race. So so that would even up a little bit more. But I thought that was an interesting stat.
Very much so. All right, Ryan, I wanted to touch base. We raced through the sprints there a little bit, but you wanted to mention Kyle Larson just a little bit in talking about the sprints.
Well, here's the deal. If he was running the World of Outlaw series right now, I wonder what the points would look like, because I think he'd be leading. Looking at this, okay, again, my buddy Keith, who's a sprint car fan, I don't know crap about the sprint cars other than they sucked at Grand Forks and Fargo.
We're going to have Keith on the show one night.
We'll have to. But in his last 33 races, 20 wins and 28 top threes, nothing worse than 6th place. And that's been against the Pennsylvania Posse, the World of Outlaws. It's been against a little bit of everybody, some non-wing stuff. I mean, that guy is flat out a wheel man. And, I got to be honest with you, you think about, what brings fans to the track. If we were to have a sprint car race up in Minnesota or Wisconsin, if you could get him to the racetrack, I think that's got to be worth another 500 fans easily.
Well, I agree for sure.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of fans, how entertaining was Ryan Aho during the Super Stock Series this weekend? Have the fans on their feet?
Not as entertaining as the racing was. Hats off to the Princeton Speedway. A little dusty, but there was multiple lanes of racing. I love Super Stocks. I mean, I absolutely love it. It was race number 1 of the Fastlane Super Stock Series. I got a whole new respect for announcers because my voice was gone. Guys, I only did one class. And, my voice was gone. I'm like, man, these guys, holy crap, how do they do this, right? But there was some good racing, and the front row of the feature, none other than Shane Sabraski. He drew the pole, right? He got the horseshoe. Burdick started next to him. Sabraski wins again. I think he's won 5 out of his last 5 races. I mean, the guy's been unbeatable. And Burdick ran second, caught him in lap traffic, right? Caught up to him, and then all by himself, he slapped his right rear against the fence, drives it right off the end of turn 1. And I'm thinking, crap. Now it's going to be a boring race now. I mean, it's over. Burdick's gone. But Nick Oreskovich came from 7th. He got to 2nd. He chased down Sabraski from about a half a straightaway, put some pressure on him. I'm like, I think he's going to win this race. Yellow comes out. I'm like, all right, here we go, right? Timmy Johnson. Now, I don't know if you guys know anything about Timmy Johnson, but when he's on the track, something exciting happens all the time. So he's side-by-side Delaware double file restart. He buries it into turn 1, slide jobs Oreskovich. Oreskovich had, in my opinion, and I hope I don't get him mad at me for saying this, but he even said it himself, he had time to lift off the gas, turn underneath him. He stood on the gas. He drove right into Timmy Johnson's left rear, crossed them both up. They both lost a ton of positions, and so that's how that ended. But great racing there overall. Ogilvy rained out on Saturday. We got the Super Stock Series. It's going to Grand Rapids it's Donlinger Ford Grand Rapids Speedway on Thursday, Gondikwa Speedway Friday, up to the ABC Raceway in Ashland on Saturday. But 41 supers, very well attended, and there's a few guys that said they didn't go. Their engines weren't ready. A few guys that looked at the weather for Saturday and opted to just go somewhere else. But really good racing, and hopefully I did a good job. The one thing I did that I thought was kind of fun, I'm always an instigator. I like doing this kind of stuff. As soon as the races were over, I busted tail and I got down to the pits as fast as I could because I wanted to interview Timmy Johnson and I wanted to interview Nick Oreskovich while they were red hot and pissed off. And I got a couple interviews there. They were kind of, you could tell there was some friction there. And got to visit with Hot Carl all the way from Texarkana, Texas. Ooh. He was up there too.
Get a picture of his cowboy boots like I asked, or
he wasn't wearing them, so he's gonna be up there this weekend. Them guys can put away some beer. Holy balls! He was absolutely. I think he's happy Ogilvy rained out because I think he may have still been drunk come race time.
That's great. Dakota Mod Tour, Bert. Why don't you kick us off there?
Yeah, I wanted to mention because the IMCA stock cars were part of that 6-race series, and Eric Malik from Green Bay, Wisconsin, finished second in the points in the 6-race series. As I said last week, Malik is a former Wisconsin Badger football player. He was a walk-on and eventually became a contributor and played on Rose Bowl winning teams back in the 90s. But yeah, he finished second. I talked to him yesterday. In the 6 races, he had 5 top 4s. He finished second, third, fourth, and he had a DNF. So he finished 9 points out of the lead. So a good run. He said that the drivers there were very welcoming to the travelers. One of the drivers allowed him to come to his shop, and so he was able to work on his car at that driver's shop. So overall, it was a good trip for him.
Who was our champion, Ryan?
What? I was going to say, if he had a DNF in that deal, only finished 9 points out, had he finished that race, he probably would have won the deal. Man, that's how you have them short series is you get one DNF, and it could be a big deal. And that's where the mods, right? Ricky Thornton Jr., I honestly thought he was going to win the deal. Austin Arneson ended up winning it, but Thornton had a rough night in there one night. He had one night where he got called to the back in the heat, didn't even race. And, so it's like, I think he was kind of crying a little bit of whining that night. I mean, you can call I think he had the right call, where they kicked him off the track because of a 1-spin rule. I kind of lost a little bit of respect for him when he just loaded up after that and didn't at least try to race. I think a lot of people were expecting to see him race, and he didn't. And he still had a shot to win that series. But I think Walla got second in that. He's won that before, former IMCA champ. But, yeah, Austin Arneson, guy from over in Fargo there. He got her done.
Awesome. All right, fellas, we're going to move on to what we're looking at this next week. And for those of us that are late model fans, it's getting exciting because now we're going to, over the next 5 weekends, we're going to go 4 crown jewels. That's right, Ryan. The money is starting. So, we're not going to count the this year's Show Me as a crown jewel because obviously the World of Outlaws were in Fargo racing, and then they're over in Indiana racing, and we did have the stream, so we basically had 1 crown jewel. But now for the next 5 weekends, we're going to go Silver Dollar Nationals this coming weekend, then we're going to 2 weeks we're going to do Cedar Lake, and then we're going to do North South, and then we're going to do the Topless. So we're getting excited here. So we kind of wanted to
show me the money.
Show me the money. That's right. It's time. On Thursday night, we'll have the Malvern Bank Goal 50, which will be a complete show on Thursday night. Friday, Saturday, we'll get into the Silver Dollar Nationals down there in Nebraska at I-80 Speedway, run by the Kosiskis. So, like I said, kind of the second crown jewel of the year. I'm really excited that we can get rid of the droop rule. I mean, if the nicest guy, Nick Anvelink, is complaining about the droop rule, Bert, I mean, it's got to go.
So well, I don't know. $53,000 to win, right? It's $53,000 to win, which is, of course, Kosiski's number. That's where the 53 comes in.
Ah, very good. Yes.
Yeah, but you said that Bobby Pierce is falling off the Hell Tour, and he's going to that Crown Jewel race, and that just leads me to think, this COVID deal kind of sucks. Not kind of, it just sucks.
It really sucks.
Let's be honest, it sucks. Serious. But I'm glad that they are not running the Hell Tour against the USA Nationals. It's just too bad they're running the Hell Tour against that race. I think that you see some of them other drivers, if they had their choice, they'd probably rather go to a race for $53,000 to win than $10,000 to win. But I think that's more than likely that's going to hand the Squirrel probably the championship if everything keeps going the way it's going.
Bert, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ryan. It's too bad that there's conflicting schedules for this upcoming weekend. It's always nice when the crown jewels are unopposed by other races, so you can bring the best of the best and let the best win the race. And but it'll still be a good race. There'll still be plenty of good cars and a lot of stars there. So,
who was Pierce the winner last year? Bert,
yep.
Do you know? Okay, right. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. I did hear Dillard say at his interview last night at Grand Forks he is going home, so that was kind of disappointing to hear because it's right on the way home, right? He's a Louisiana guy. It's like you could stop in, race a couple nights because, like you said, we know the following weekend, your Prairie Dare Classic, of course, Ryan, has been canceled. There's going to be a week between I-80 now and Cedar Lake, unfortunately, so that's why.
So Dillard's going to skip that? He's not going.
That's what he said in the interview. He said he's going home. So, I guess we'll see what happens here. So. All right. Do we want to? Do any of you want to pick, make a pick, or do we want to save that for later?
Well, I'll just make a quick pick on that one. It's interesting. You see a race like that. Is Brandon Overton and Madden going to make the trip up, or are they going to stick down? Is that Southern All Stars race? Is that field goes through next weekend, right? So I don't think they'll be making their way up. So if I had to pick somebody, Rocket won. I mean, how do you pick against Beecham? That's my pick.
I agree. I'm with you. How about you, Bert?
I'll agree with you guys.
I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping it's somebody that just unexpectedly wins a great race. I think we're all excited to watch it, but man, it's hard to pick against that one car right now.
It totally is. And like I said, car count's going to be interesting. You got the Southern Nationals going on, you got the UMP Summer Nationals going on, and now we're going to have this Crown Jewel, which is about the furthest west they head, right, for the late models. I mean, I don't think they get too much further west than Nebraska. They're just outside of Omaha. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what the car counts are. All right, race fans, we're into the last lap segment, so we have one to go. And it was announced this week that our beloved Jackson Motorplex right here in Minnesota, they're going to cancel the rest of the season now. Todd Queering, who we announced last week, has bought Houston Speedway over in South Dakota. He's moving the Ollie's Bargain Outlet All-Star Race in August over to Houston's, and he's also moving the MSTS Sprint Car show that was originally going to be held Labor Day weekend in Minnesota over to South Dakota. So now I did a little bit of research on this Todd Queering. For those of you that are deer hunting, he's the guy that came up with the big game deer deer stands. I don't know if you knew that, Ryan, but that was, and then they actually sold the company, it looks like, to some big outfit in 2016.
Yeah, he was a big sponsor of Terry McCarl back in the day.
Yeah, he said he teamed up with McCarl. The story I already gave him, like, his first sponsorship was worth $1,500. Then, like 7 years later, he bought the whole team, and then McCarl ended up racing for him. So this guy sounds like a crazy, wild, successful entrepreneur. But like I said, he sold that, so now he's going to concentrate more on his two racing operations. All right, Ryan, update on the Street Stock Series.
Here's the deal. Girls got it done again. Talking about Morgan Ward, right? Maria Broxiak, who was actually used to be Maria Konold, is her maiden name. She won last night at the Casino Speedway when all the so-called big dogs come to town. Johnny Carter leading the points after a 3-day swing out west, and Eric Riley. Now, keep in mind, in the points, I think they run like 14 shows, and they only keep 8, okay? So it's kind of hard to say who's really the point leader until they're throwing it out. And I was looking at that, and although Johnny Carter's your point leader right now, in my mind, Eric Riley's in the driver's seat because he has more wins and just the way things are set up. So I think Riley's going to be your next point leader. They head to Ogilvie tomorrow night, weather permitting, and that's been a good series. Yeah, I tell you, we're late model guys, mod guys, all that, but then Street Stock's put on a really good show, and it's been really entertaining. If you can jump on Dirt Race Central, they actually had the action from last night, but they've had several of those races, plus they're going to have tomorrow night at Ogilvie. So, and Wilmer again on Thursday they're going to. So check that out on Dirt Race Central. They've had some really good racing there.
Awesome. Bert, we've got an update and some not breaking news, but some news that came out about 24 hours ago on Hudson O'Neill.
Yeah, apparently he has left the Masters Built House car. And he is dropping off the Lucas Oil Series Tour. What I read was that he's not sure what his next move is going to be. But I mean, he has a lot of talent, and it's too bad that this happened. It's not totally surprising that they didn't have the success. I mean, when you're out of the game, as long as we all admitted we didn't even know Masters Built was building chassis anymore. And when you're out of this game where technology is king, it takes a while to get up to speed. So it's not totally surprising, but I mean, it's unfortunate. I would assume a car owner is going to, get him into some races. I was joking with Ryan. Maybe he goes into the second Bloomquist car.
Ryan, you're up next. A little sign language, which we were using earlier. Cedar Lake Speedway, the month of money.
Well, I got to be honest, right? We're all excited about $53,000 to win right down at I-80, but $5,000 to win at Cedar Lake. When this is the first big show, in the Wisconsin area for like the Wissota. I mean, they're not Wissota, right? They're not NASCAR anymore either, but the Wissota type late models. And we didn't have any really late model racing this last weekend. Mother Nature basically went to the top of the power rankings there. But I'm super excited to see what I would consider the top echelon late model drivers in our area competing for $5,000 to win. And I'm going to go ahead and just say Pat Dorr. That's going to be my pick for Saturday night at Cedar Lake Speedway. Do you guys know, is that televised anywhere? Is that on any streaming? Do you know that?
I don't know.
Isn't it Speed Shift that normally you can sometimes catch on Facebook the night? Is it Speed Shift or?
Speed Shift does some of their stuff. I'm gonna have to look that up because, I'm gonna be jabberjawing up at the ABC Raceway. I'm gonna be jabberjawing the Super Stock race, but even if I have to catch it later, it would sure be fun to watch that race because let's face it, there's some good late model racing at Cedar Lake.
Awesome. Bert, 141 hosting a big race this week.
Yeah, 141 is known for the Clash at the Creek, the 10,000 to win modified show in June. But it was either last year or the year before they started for the IMSA stock cars. It's called the King of the Creek, and it's 5,000 to win. Which, for the IMSA stock cars, that's a pretty good payday. It's actually going to be a good week for IMSA stock car drivers in eastern Wisconsin because the King of the Creek is Wednesday and Thursday, and then Shawano Speedway is going to have a 2-day special, the Midsummer Classic, on Friday and Saturday. At Shawano Speedway, it's 2 complete shows each night, but the IMSA stock cars will be racing for 1,000 to win each night at Shawano Speedway. Late models will be racing for $1,625, I believe, to win each night. And the modifieds will race for 1,000 to win, and the sport mod 600 to win, I believe.
Gosh, they're throwing some money around out there.
I honestly, I got to give thumbs down to that. Don't get me wrong, it's a good deal, but that's just another example. I wish these tracks could freaking work together, right? Because
I agree.
We're talking a $5,000 to win late model show at Cedar Lake, and if there was nothing big going on like that over at Shawano, that some of those guys would make the trip over, or vice versa. Maybe you get a couple of the other guys. They typically, I think they're scared of the eastern guys, so they typically don't go far east. But the fact of the matter is, work together. There's only so many late model tracks.
Yeah. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Ryan, the Northern Nationals at Gondik Speedway. We've talked a lot about Gondik tonight. They've decided to make some changes for their fall special, the Northern Nationals.
Again, work together. Work together. Seriously, right? Okay, so they're bringing back the Russ Larson Classic. And I have to look. Was it 5,119? Let me get the exact number here. It is 5,190 to win. So they're doing a different format. They're running Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and on Friday, they're actually, what they're going to do is, how some tracks do the 2 heats and they take the point average from the 2? Well, they're actually running 3. So they're doing 3 heats. They're going to run 2 heats on Friday for the late models. They're going to run a 3rd heat on Saturday. They're going to take the whole accumulation of points, do all the math, figure it all out, and bam, there's your lineup for the feature. Now, here's what's interesting to me. So Gondik Speedway's got a great working relationship with FYE Motorsports, Chris Steffen. Okay? That same weekend is the Sites Memorial at River Cities for, I believe it's 9,200 to win, 920 to start.
Exactly.
Okay? So that's like the biggest, other than, they had the Rumble, which turns out to be the biggest now. But other than that, that's the biggest paying late model race. A whole bunch of them Wisconsin guys head to Grand Forks for that race. Now they have another race in Superior against that race, and they work together. It's like, good grief, guys. What are you doing? There's not much other stuff going on. The Punky's pretty much canceled, so it's like, why didn't they try to work that together so they can have 2 big shows? Because, obviously Steve Larson, he's for sure going to Superior, but I would honestly have to say I would be shocked if you don't see Kanta, Pat Dorr, all them guys. I think you're going to get most of the Wisconsin guys now going to Gondik. Is that going to have a huge impact on the car count over at the site?
Well, Provenzino used to go out to Grand Forks every year. I don't think he'll be making that trip.
It'll be a
Jeff
coin
Massengill?
toss. Yeah, it'll be a coin toss to where they go. I think the biggest factor is probably going to be the weather. That's probably going to be the biggest factor as far as where they go. But it's like, man, there's only so many late models to go around in our area. And when you have two big shows head-to-head same weekend, it just sucks. You know, it's just not good. I mean, it's good for some guys because now you have two people that are going to take home some cash, but it ain't good for the fans. The fans want to see 40 of the best. They want to see a bunch of them come to one race. They don't want to see – it's kind of like the World of Outlaws and Lucas Oil late models. You half are over here, half are over there. Nobody – as a fan, I don't want to see that. I want to see Jimmy Owens and Beach Chef head-to-head every night, right? Not just like one night in Superior. I want to see that every night. And that's what these guys want to see. And I'm going to be completely 100% honest. If I were all the Wisconsin guys, I would for sure go to Superior. Why? Because they're not, more than likely, they're not going to Grand Forks and beating their locals. Their locals over there in Grand Forks are really good. You take Dustin Strand, I'm telling you, that kid is bolted. Brad Sang is fast. Corbett's been running good. You know, so you take, and the Canadian guys can't come down, so that'll be interesting. So if you look at that whole deal, that Sites deal could be in big trouble, right? Because all the Wisconsin guys might go that way. Minnesota guys, they might get some of the Western Minnesota guys. They're not going to get any of the Canadians. What's that car count going to look like? That's not a good deal, but it's good for our area, right? It'll be good for the Gondikla Speedway, and it'll be some good racing. It'll definitely be a fun race to go to the Northern Nationals for sure.
All right, fellas, I think that about wraps it. Anything else?
No, where are you guys going this week?
Go ahead, Bert.
Well, I'll be going to the 2 nights at Toronto Speedway for the Midsummer Classic. I'm toying with the idea of going to the final night at the King of the whatever the name of that is. I forgot. King of the Creek.
King of the Creek. King of the Creek.
But no, go ahead.
No, go
I
ahead.
was just going to say definitely the 2 nights at Toronto for sure.
Okay, I'm thinking, like I said, I'll come see you Thursday night Rapids, Ryan. Saturday probably in Hibbing. But I did want to mention to all you dirt drafters, I was just going to throw something out there to you for that. If you've got a team together and you're doing anything with I-80, I would say Mason Ziegler rather than Bobby Pierce. I would say Tyler Erb, count on like a top 3, and I would fade Josh Richards coming off a tough weekend, and he was in the B feature last year, Ryan, at I-80.
Interesting. So Bert, you got a couple big races over there in Wisconsin. Who's your pick? Is Anvilink going to be, or Justin Ritchie? Who's your guy?
Well, I would assume Justin Ritchie will be. Well, see, when this race was originally scheduled, Plymouth wasn't supposed to race on Saturday night, late models anyway, but now I looked at their schedule and I think they do have late models. So this whole COVID thing in 2020 has just messed up schedules everywhere. But I mean, if Avalink is there, I will go with Avalink to have strong showings both nights. Now, I mean, well, at Channel you can race with the open motor. You just have to put a restrictor plate on it. So he can race with the open motor that he put in the car. So
there you go.
He might go to Cedar Lake for the chance to win $5,000. I don't know.
That'll be interesting to see where he goes, especially with the USA Nationals coming up. You might go over there and play around with that. And, you know, like I said, I'll be at the Dowling Airport Grand Rapids Speedway Thursday. I'm going to be up at the Gondikla Speedway on Friday. I'm going to be at the ABC Raceway on Saturday. And I get to watch most of the races, but when the Super Stocks are out there, I'll be jabber-jawing. I get to have my second, third, and fourth night behind the mic, so that's going to be fun.
Race fans might have to cancel the show on Monday. He won't have a voice box left.
Well, they always said I had a really big mouth, so they handed me a mic and they said, put it to work, right?
All right, fellas, that's it?
That's all I have.
That's it.
All right. As the great John Garabedian taught us every week back in the day, get out there and be your dream. You're tuned to the One to Go show.